4 new Star Trek series pitches to Paramount/Skydance. What to expect? Creativity 1,300 words. As Paramount and Skydance prepare their newly combined future slate, Star Trek sits at the center of countless fan debates, industry rumors, and behind-the-scenes speculation. With the franchise now spread across streaming, animation, and blockbuster film hopes that refuse to die, the next era of Trek is clearly approaching, but its shape is far from locked. Thankfully, the galaxy is vast, and the creative possibilities are practically limitless. What follows are 4 bold, ambitious, and wildly different Star Trek series pitches that could define the next generation of Trek storytelling. Each pitch embraces a unique corner of the franchise, promising character-driven exploration, fresh thematic takes, and a renewed forward-looking optimism, exactly what modern Trek needs most. 1 Star Trek Legacy, a sequel with a mission to unite all Trek timelines. Among fans, Star Trek Legacy has become the holy grail of potential new series. Set after Picard, it imagines Captain 7 of 9 leading a new Enterprise G with a crew drawn from multiple Trek eras. But this pitch goes beyond simple continuation. It proposes a daring mandate to finally reconcile the entire Star Trek timeline into a unified canon. Premise: when mysterious spatial anomalies begin tearing into Federation space, Starfleet learns they originate from fractures in the multiversal fabric, fractures caused by repeated changes to the timeline from the temporal Cold War, the Kelvin divergence, Picard's time travel incursion, and countless other events. Captain 7 is tasked with not just charting the anomalies, but understanding their cause. The Enterprise G becomes a ship of scientific diplomacy, carrying legacy officers like Raffi, Jack Crusher, and perhaps even holographic versions of Data and others who were preserved digitally. Why it works. Legacy character synergy. The show balances nostalgia with new direction, keeping the beloved tone of TNG while leaning into the serialized character arcs fans now expect. Multiverse storytelling without chaos. By focusing on repairing timelines rather than inventing constant divergences, Legacy grounds the storytelling in Trek logic rather than multiverse excess. Space for cameos but not dependence. Appearances from Spock, Kelvin, Burnham Disco, or even Kirk SNW could occur, but as narrative consequences rather than fan service stunts. What to expect? Expect diplomacy over destruction, a ship's family learning to function across generational divides, and a final season arc in which the Enterprise must decide, is restoring timelines more important than saving individual universes? Star Trek Legacy would be the glue the franchise has long needed, a show that respects every Trek without living entirely in the shadow of any. 2 Star Trek Starfleet Academy, a coming-of-age drama set during Trek's next renaissance. Long rumored and frequently teased, Starfleet Academy has all the ingredients for Trek's first true YA-leaning drama. But instead of setting the series in the 32nd century, this pitch relocates it to a time of renewed Federation growth, the post-Dominion War rebuilding era. Premise: it's been 10 years since the Dominion War ended, and Starfleet is expanding faster than ever. The Academy is overflowing with recruits from recently liberated worlds, child refugees from border colonies, and young idealists raised on stories of the USS Defiant and the Enterprise E. Into this melting pot steps our main character, Lyra Thane, a Cardassian Byron hybrid whose very existence is political. Alongside her are Jax Rourke, a human pilot prodigy who washed out of another program. Tlek, a Vulcan cadet struggling with suppressed emotions triggered by PTSD from the war. Zeri, an Orion cadet determined to break stereotypes about her people. Series tone: think of it as Lower Decks meets Battlestar Galactica, but with the heart of DS9. It tackles real-world issues, trauma, prejudice, idealism, generational divides, but with Trek's trademark optimism. Why it works. The post-war era is rich with political and emotional storytelling possibilities. Young audiences get entry characters. Older fans get world-building tied directly to DS9, Voyager, and TNG. Every season ends with a cadets in crisis event, a massive simulation, a real emergency, or a political collapse, testing everything they've learned. What to expect? Cameos from Admiral Janeway, Captain Worf, or even an older Nog training students would keep the show grounded in existing lore. Expect slow burn arcs about Federation expansion, idealism versus reality, and a final season where cadets must choose their postings, or be forced into diplomatic service amid a brewing new galactic crisis. 3 Star Trek Section 31 Shadows of the Federation, a prestige thriller that reinvents Trek's darkest division, with Michelle Yeoh's acclaimed career resurgence post Everything Everywhere All at Once. There has never been a better moment for an adult-oriented prestige Trek thriller. Section 31 Shadows of the Federation reframes the infamous Black Ops organization not as cartoon villains, but as a morally terrifying reminder of Machiavellian doctrine taken too far. Premise: now reformed, at least officially, Section 31 has supposedly been dissolved. Emperor Philippa Georgiou, displaced from the Mirror Universe, is offered an impossible choice: return home to the Terran Empire, or accept a covert mission to track down rogue Section 31 cells operating independently after the Federation's attempt to shut them down. Georgiou chooses the latter, leading a small crew that's half Starfleet, half exiled operatives desperate for redemption. The team: Agent Marek, an ex-Romulan Tal Shiar operative specializing in psychological infiltration. Dr. Nira Evan, a Federation xenobiologist who believes ethics can survive even the darkest missions. Rex, an enhanced android whose programming may or may not contain hidden directives. Georgiou, the ruthless but evolving leader caught between her Terran instincts and Starfleet's ideals. Series tone: it's Andor meets DS9, shot like a political spy thriller. Missions involve infiltration, sabotage, extraction, and information warfare, but always tied back to the ethical dilemmas that define Trek. Why it works: shows the Federation's vulnerable side without breaking its moral compass. Gives Michelle Yeoh a nuanced, complex role that plays to her strengths. Explores the consequences of unchecked power and the shadows required to maintain peace. What to expect: expect surprising antagonists, Klingon extremists, rogue changelings, even corrupt Federation officials. The climax of the series might reveal that Section 31 never died, and that its leadership is closer to Starfleet than anyone imagined. For Star Trek: Frontier, a return to classic exploration with a Western frontier twist. For fans longing for pure exploration-based Trek, Star Trek: Frontier is the love letter the franchise has been missing. Set roughly 50 years after Voyager, it explores the Federation's most distant border, a region so unexplored that even the Borg avoided it. Premise: the USS Pioneer, a mid-sized long-range vessel, is assigned to chart the Lasker Expanse, a massive cluster of proto-galaxies colliding at the farthest reachable edge of Federation space. Warp corridors are unstable, subspace behaves strangely, and traditional star charts are useless. This is Trek's version of a frontier western but with science. The cast: Captain Amaya Rios, a former xenoarchaeologist whose curiosity drives her command style. Commander Threx, a Tellarite engineer who believes every engine has a secret personality. Lieutenant Soravel, a Trill pilot coping with memories from a symbiont's past host who vanished in this region decades prior. Dr. Kyle, an Andorian scientist who specializes in pre-warp sociocultural anthropology. Series tone: think TOS's adventurous spirit with